And
Where do I look?
If you thump on the table, you can hear it on the mic. Okay. So no, just here or there or there or wherever. Or right there. Don't go. Don't go. Don't go. Don't go. Drop the ball down. All right, man. It feels like it's been forever, which we took off last week. But you are here today with us. This is This Pink Cloud, Season 2, Episode 44. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. Sitting across from me, the beautifully coiffed Dylan Kingston. And I would say he is a rad skateboard dude. And a smart recovery facilitator.
Yes,
correct?
In the house. Good to be back. It's been a little while.
Yeah, I know. It seems weird. It seems like when I was like, oh, I remember what sleeping in is like.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then I haven't been on in even a couple weeks before that too. So it's good to be back.
Well, good to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, exciting.
Well,
stuff.
but with us today is our lovely guest, and I would say Dirty Dan Niebrand's better half.
Yes, and indeed.
Val the gal. Valerie Niebrand.
Yes.
So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah. So I hear you're a podcast regular. So you do this.
No,
you're like on the podcast circuit.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
I did one a couple weeks back, but it was not related to recovery. So I'm really excited.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, before we get into it, we're going to talk about the 12 steps today, because I don't think I've ever really had an episode that was dedicated towards the 12 steps and kind of demystify the 12 steps and tell everybody, what they're about. Because honestly, if you hear the 12 steps, you're like, oh, that sounds like some secret handshake kind of really mumbo jumbo. Hey, but before we get to the good stuff, obviously I want to hit our sponsor, which is summersky.us. So summersky.us, 888-857-8857. Once again, that is 888-857-8857, and they are a lovely facility out in Stephenville, Texas, if you didn't know.
I didn't.
But they are in Stephenville, Texas, and it is a place where I got clean and sober.
Perfect.
Those go hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? But I got clean and sober. And, man, honestly, I tell this every time. If I can do it, you can do it for sure. So, and even if you just if you're curious or whatever you want to, just give them a call. They're really cool, good people out there. And Dylan gets penalized for making key noise.
That's gonna be $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it on my tab.
But so we've got some exciting stuff coming up for the show too. We're actually going to be moving locations.
Yeah.
So we're doing 2 more shows here. So we'll be here till the 17th. And then we are moving downtown, dude. We are moving downtown Dallas. Exactly. Exactly.
To the downtown, right? Not east side.
Well, it's kind of cool because it's actually above the Majestic Theater. And so it
sweet.
overlooks, we can actually see the bands checking in. So whoever's in there, we can sneak in backstage.
Yeah.
That's smart. Yeah, that's very strategic.
We'll have a view. It'll be like our penthouse view.
It is. It's super nice. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, so what we're here for is to talk to this young lady right here. I know that we were kind of talking, and I know that you've probably sponsored close to 100 people around there. But let's hear a little bit about your backstory, what you want to share, obviously, and then what you're doing now, and just tell the folks out there a little bit about yourself and why you are so interesting.
Oh my. Okay, we won't go to all those stories. However, so I do want to qualify myself as talking about the 12 steps. I think that's huge and important for especially newcomers. If you're tuning in today, you want to make sure that, the book talks about, that's the most important part of recovery is.
And by the way, this is the book right here.
There you go.
in case you want to get a shot of that. There we go.
Yeah.
That is the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
That is our Bible.
Right. Well, and it's funny you said that because I also brought this. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
I haven't.
But this.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was as well.
This book is what started it all. So this is the unabridged version of this. So this is them.
Oh my!
All the people sitting there. It's got like people like scratching stuff out. And my friend Nolan, who used to be on the show, he would say, "Oh yeah, Kelly's got to have the Dead Sea Scroll. The Bible's not good enough for him."
Yeah.
So
There you go.
It's kind of like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I kind of
and it
need
kinda,
that too.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
kind of cool just to see, because they really thought it out, and they'd go, "Oh no, we'll get flamed for that."
So it's like,
Let's change it.
So it's like unedited. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The big book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
see their notes. Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
cool. Yeah,
That is
really
cool.
Anyway,
All right. So basically, yeah. So I am a recovered alcoholic. I'm also a recovered drug addict.
Okay.
So I have been clean and sober since May 13th, 2015.
okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's
amazing.
been all because of the program and the
Mhm.
steps, but I was a late bloomer.
Okay.
So I say that, but basically I kind of always knew I had the allergy because in high school, you know, you start drinking with your friends
Sure.
and I'm just not done yet, you know?
Right. Everybody else is tapped
I'm
out,
just-
and you're like,
Yeah.
Nope, not me.
Where's that next wine cooler?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I felt, so I'll just throw it out there. I was very awkward and very insecure about like what you or anybody would think of me.
Okay.
So that, when I took that drink, you know, it just really, it just released that.
It made
Yeah.
you. It made you Val the party gal.
That's right.
I
got
And
it.
everybody liked me. And
Right.
that was what was important. So
Sure.
it was that, you know, that feeling. And the book talks about that. But ultimately, I was able to drink. And like the book says, you know, there's a certain point of where you pass that line, you know.
Yeah, where it
and-
goes from like just doing
Social
it to loosen
drinking,
up
yes.
and things like that to where it's like
and now you can't go back
a
from
necessity,
it.
yeah.
So at this point in my teens, I was really able to go back and say, hey, you know what, I'm not doing that. I ended up progressing in my life and not having an issue with alcohol. However, after I'd gotten a divorce and was a mom and all that stuff, basically I started drinking again, like with happy hours and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
little
again-
little mommy culture, little
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Book
that kind
club.
of thing.
I
But
gotcha.
here I was, you know, showing up to happy hour at 2:00.
Yeah.
Nobody's like doing it at 2:00.
And you pre-gamed for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so
I got a tailgate for the mommy party.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm drinking later, and so I already noticed that allergy just kicking right back in. I didn't know what to call it at that point, but
Sure.
eventually that led into, you know, benzos and amphetamines and uppers, you name it, you know.
Right.
So
I like to call those the drinker's companions.
oh,
Yeah.
they
Yes.
were.
Yeah. They keep you going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you know, later in life, I think I was about 27.
Okay.
No, when I started drinking again, I think I was 23, but around 27, ultimately, I had just lost control.
Yeah.
I couldn't control the drug use. I couldn't control the alcohol use. Basically, you know, I had stayed in that state for approximately 4.5 years.
Right.
So,
And this was nothing you signed up for intentionally, because I want to point that out also. Nobody really signs up to be an alcoholic or
an addict,
Or an
yeah.
addict. They don't set out to do it. They set out to navigate it
No.
properly, you know, or
Yeah.
socially.
well, yeah, and that's what people were doing that were my age.
Right, of course. No,
And people
no,
are
no,
still
no,
doing
yeah.
it at my age.
And
Sure.
then it makes it even harder too. At this point, like you said, you were already like you had a family and I'm
Yes.
sure you had a job and all
Oh,
of those
yeah.
things, and so you were juggling multiple. You know, like you're taking care of your family, you're working a job, and then you're also hiding your addiction from people and all of those things. And
That's right.
yeah, it becomes a scary, sketchy slope.
It was sketchy. Well, I thought I was hiding it, but apparently, everybody else
Don't
knew
we
about
all?
it. I was like, oh man, nobody knows. And sure enough, everybody's like, well, we knew you were not right,
Yeah.
But ultimately, I did hit the bottom for me. That was definitely losing everything. I mean, from custody to job position to status to ending up at the 24-hour club, which
Wow.
is why I love the 24-hour
Well,
club.
so I mean, and just for those people that don't know what the 24-hour club is, go ahead and give them a little idea. We actually have Marcia from the 24-hour coming on the 17th of this month. She'll be the last show in the studio.
Dun, dun,
She's-
dun.
Yeah, so that'll be
She's
a
a
good
big
last
deal.
show.
I'm glad.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have her
Yeah.
and talk all about it. But let's talk a little bit about it now. What is the 24-hour club?
So the 24-hour club, when I had met the 24-hour club, it was it's still the same place in terms of like it houses people that are sober, that want to remain sober, men and women, and you have to, they keep you accountable to your sobriety. So you
Right.
have to have a sponsor, you have to do the chores list, you have a curfew.
And is it just for homeless people?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
People that come out of rehab that don't have a safe space to go to, like if all your friends are basically using or drinking and you don't like have good support, or maybe your mom or dad's tired of you, then you go to the 24-hour club.
Right. No.
I would
I like
almost
it.
classify it's almost like a sober living type environment, right?
It is. Yeah, it's definitely sober living.
Not as much as it's not just like your everyday run of the mill like homeless shelter.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
As the walls fall.
Falling off, yeah.
Right. I mean, well, yeah.
No.
So I did enter the original 24-hour club, the old one with the red brick building.
Right, and that's on
we had-
Ross Avenue.
Yes.
It's just still there.
It is. Now
Obviously,
they have
yeah.
a new facility.
Right.
It is beautiful. And so either way, same system. We had meetings. And for me, I'll just back up a minute because throughout that time of being out there and not drawing a sober breath. Okay.
Right. I like
I
how you put
didn't-
that.
I didn't know people could be sober.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't. I'm
right.
sorry.
No.
I just
Hey.
thought the AA was where people came to smoke cigarettes, and I really thought
and be miserable.
Yeah.
and be miserable and talk about alcohol.
Right.
And they were kind of cultish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's
there's a-
very important that you point that out.
There's
yeah,
a
because-
whole culty vibe about the rooms of recovery that a lot of people, and I personally never thought that, but now that I've been in and like I've seen both sides of it, and I speak to other people that aren't addicts or what it seems very like culty to them.
It
Yeah.
definitely does.
Mm-hmm.
And I did hit a couple of AA meetings while I was out there. But I didn't get it. Like I didn't understand the steps. I didn't
Sure.
understand the prayer. I didn't understand why everybody's drinking coffee. Like I didn't understand everything. I didn't understand why a guy with overalls was talking to a girl. I don't know. It just seemed weird how people were mixing, and it wasn't natural to me.
Okay.
But on this side of it, I understand that
Sure.
we mix because we're all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was different. So, when I did try to finally, ultimately, I was done, dude. Like I was like sick and tired of using or drinking against my will.
Oh yeah.
I was no longer using or drinking because I wanted to. Now I was doing it because I had to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that,
I mean, I'm just getting the shakes. I was having seizures. I had blood pressure issues. I mean, you name it. Health wise, I was a mess.
yeah. I mean, and I always share this in my story. I was full blown diabetic. I mean, I guess I have that gene in my family, but I gave myself onset of diabetes.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking insulin shot level.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Doing 2 shots, insulin shots a day, and of course a bunch of shots of Fireball and vodka and whatever
course.
else.
Yeah.
but doing that
Shots all
and
around.
and yeah, but just that hopelessness of not being able to quit. Because I mean, I just signed up to have fun.
Yeah.
And to get drunk and to just have fun with it, and then all of a sudden it became a job and a career and a lifestyle. So yeah,
for sure. So I bring that up because, I later found out that was my step one, and we'll get into that. But ultimately, with going to rehab and going into the 24-hour club, ultimately what that allowed me to do is see that people were able to be sober and clean. And the biggest thing to me is to be happy about it.
I love that. And I always say that. I'm like, if you're sober and you're not happy, because I mean, I'm just happy. Yeah. I can get up and function. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm not having a level 10 panic attack that I need to, take a benzo and chase with, one of these of vodka. And I'm glad these are filled with actual water now. So,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
It took me 8 months to get over the fact that I could wake up at like 6 a.m. and like go a full day and like then like lay down at night and like just go straight to sleep without like getting high. Or it took me like a long time to be like, that's okay. Like, it's cool.
Sure.
Yeah. It really does. That was sitting in rehab, obviously, that was an eye-opener because we had groups that came through. I went to Homeward Bound, state funded.
Shout out to Homeward Bound.
Shout out to them. Love that program.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the AA or other groups would come through and they would say, oh, yeah, I haven't drank and I haven't used and I'm good with it. And they had this big peace and happiness about them. And I would go up to them and be like, okay, wait a minute. No, first of all, you're lying because I don't believe that you can go to like a Mexican restaurant and not have a margarita. I can't believe that you can have a bad day and not have a benzo.
Mm-hmm.
How do you function this way, And so ultimately at the 24-hour club, we were able, I was able to have the accountability to have a sponsor. And that right there freaked me out because now I'm like going to the cult. Right? Like they're telling me the only way I can live here and have long-term sobriety is to go be a part of this cult.
Right.
Which in my brain, my sick brain, which is not the case at all. And so it's funny because I'm going to talk about a friend of mine who passed away. Her name is Jenny. And she... Jennifer Schmiedel. She passed away.
Okay.
She was staying with me there, and she was so excited about sobriety. I was just like, oh my God, I would people get on my nerves.
Yeah, it's just like, get over it, girl. Yeah.
And she was like, oh yeah, Val, we got to go to this meeting. We got to get you a sponsor. I'm so excited. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I signed up for? So we end up walking into this group, and of course, I asked somebody to be my sponsor, and she said, I don't know. I think we're going to sit down and talk about this because I guess I was a hot mess. I didn't realize that. But
Aren't we all?
But basically, I, sat down with her, and she says, are you willing to do whatever it takes to overcome drinking and using for good and all? And I didn't know what the heck that question really meant, but I said, yeah, I guess, yes, I'll do it, And so she's okay.
I guess. Well, I like your commitment.
It's scary too. You're asking a complete stranger, and then you're gonna and you don't know this yet, but you're gonna divulge all your deep, dark, scary mess onto these people, and they're gonna help you navigate. And that's a big thing. It's a
huge thing, and it's funny because I asked the same girls, the girls I sponsor, the same thing, and usually they have that, same look of like, are you serious right now? And they're like, yes, but ultimately that is what drove me to work the steps, is because I had to. I didn't want to be there, guys. I didn't want to live there. I didn't want to work the steps. I knew I wanted to be sober. I didn't know what sobriety looked like. And
or that it was obtainable.
I didn't know it's obtainable. And ultimately, that's the biggest message I want to talk about today. And overview wise, it's you don't even have to want. I mean, you really don't have to have a good mood about this.
Okay, yeah.
The steps work.
Right.
Regardless if you have a good mood about it or not.
Right.
So if you're miserable doing the steps, they're going to work just as good as if you're happy doing them.
Right. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So, and I think sometimes.
Because a lot of people will definitely begrudgingly work the steps.
Of course
Yeah.
we
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
want to do the work.
Right.
I mean, nobody just signs up to do all that work.
Right.
So that's, definitely, my background in coming to know the steps, obviously where I am today, and then we'll talk about some of the steps, is, 6.5 years clean and sober. I have a wonderful, amazing husband, Daniel Niebrand. He is my partner, my confidant. Dirty Dan, my friend.
And let's give Knucklehead Recovery a plug. Knucklehead Recovery a plug real quick. They're a group on Facebook, and they post funny recovery stuff.
Yes, and he has apparel coming out soon. So he's just an amazing human. Also, we have several kids. We have Dakota, we have Mariah, we have Brianna, and we have our baby Isabella. And most of the older kids are adults, but basically.
Well, now you got built-in babysitters.
Now built-in babysitters.
That's good.
But I get to have a career today.
Yeah.
I get to go to events. I don't have to drink.
Right.
I don't even think of it.
Oh yeah.
I get to do everything that I was wanting to do before, but now I have a spiritual completion that I was always searching for through drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. Right.
That I found and had a longevity.
Would you say it helped fill a void? Basically.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
total. I had several voids in my life. So
Right.
that, and I never thought that was possible.
Sure.
And so we have an amazing, beautiful family. I mean, the relationships, the friendships, the get-togethers, the vacations.
And I like the functionality.
Getting here today, I was on time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you beat us
Exactly.
both here.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So anyways, so that's what recovery does. And I'm really excited to dive into some of these steps.
Sure. Do you want me to lead it? Because I kind of wanted it to,
You tell me.
demystify it, because like I said, it's like some secret society and there's some secret handshake, and there's really not. I mean, to me, I think as far as the 12 steps are concerned, it's a fantastic blueprint for spiritual growth. And then I will say also dealing with trauma. And then also the last 3 steps are basically upkeep on those first 9, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Would you say that's a fair assessment, or
Yeah, you're right. You're
Okay.
right. It's total spiritual
And-
maintenance.
and
Do you
this-
mind handing me that really
Yeah,
quick?
sure.
Because
But-
I want to kind of...
But can you get it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love it because people always, this was written back in 1939. Remember?
Yeah.
But it was, and it's cool, and it sticks up today. And a lot of people, actually, a lot of groups, have spun off of AA and use the 12 steps. I mean, there's CA, there's NA. Well, no, I think NA actually has their own book, but it's loosely based on that.
Yeah, they have their own book, but it's stories of people that have drug addictions instead of, you know what I'm saying, and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, DAA. I mean, there's so many, A's that we could talk about for sure. I don't care. I mean,
Well, you opened up to a page, so I'm curious. Did you open up to the 12
I
steps?
did.
Oh, okay.
I opened up to those 12 steps.
You don't have them memorized or tattooed on you anywhere?
No,
Like-
I'm a human
No, I
that
gotcha.
forgets, and
No, I
I
gotcha.
do have some pages memorized.
So okay. So the first step is we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and or drugs. That our lives became unmanageable. So I mean that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean
but is it?
Well, I mean,
I don't
okay.
think it is.
All right, so let's hear it. Like
Okay,
so like
because-
if I'm a sponsee or a potential sponsee
Yeah.
coming to you, what would you say?
See, that's what this step right here actually confused me. Because when I read it, I was thinking I was powerless over things versus
Right.
what this step is really pointing out. And that's why I wanted the book, is because I want to point out in this first step, even if you're a big book thumper, you're going to love this, but on XXVIII,
And the old Roman numeral pages.
Yep. Basically what this is saying is what makes me powerless is this allergy that I have, and it doesn't talk about that in the first step, but because
a lot of people though, their sticking point, and what I've heard is the whole powerless, and I don't know if it should be if we're powerful over alcohol, because we're not.
No.
But I mean, it's a lot of people have that's kind of they don't want to actually admit that.
Right. And so that's why I think it's important when you do sit down with your sponsor, that she's able or he's able to break this down, because ultimately what it's saying when I talk about, so this is really step one, we admitted we were powerless over drugs or alcohol, that's its own section. So it's basically saying whenever I put drugs or alcohol in my body, that I have an allergic reaction to that. And, it causes me in my allergic reaction, nothing that you can see by the eye, but it causes me to have a loss of control. And because I have that loss of control, I can no longer count my numbers. Maybe back in the day, I was able to, count of okay, I'm going out for one drink. And there, that was fine. But now I'm at a point where I can no longer count my numbers, and I'm at a loss of control, and I don't stop now until something bad happens.
Right.
Or you
black out.
Or you're behind bars. Or
Yeah. It's just, it's a complete, I mean, you have it's not, you're, like you said earlier, we're using against our will. As soon as that drug, alcohol, whatever the case may be, enters my body, I go into pinhole mode, and it's anything and everything I can get into my body until something stops me.
Right.
And it's not gonna be myself.
It's usually red and blue lights.
Or red and blue. Unfortunately for a lot of us, it's death.
Yeah.
Or what I'm saying? And that's the true reality of it all, is because when we say we're addicts or alcoholics, like she said, that allergy is so powerful that if it's not arrested, then it's going to manifest itself into a way to kill you.
Exactly.
Hands down.
Right.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Hands down, 100%. And so that is what I, and I always like to point that out to newcomers, because powerless, when the book is referring to it here, they're referring to the allergy that I have. I cannot, if I'm allergic to strawberries and you had strawberries here today,
right?
And I'm like, you know what, today I'm going to tell my body not to be allergic, and I start just downing the strawberries.
Right.
What do you think's going to happen?
A little ER trip.
There you go.
Do you have an EpiPen?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Exactly. So the same thing happens with my physical body. I can never in my life drink or have substances in it, because as much as I want to control it, it's a manifestation that's within me. For some reason, people want to call it the pancreas, whatever. I don't digest it like everybody else, and I crave more.
Right, and maybe who knows? Maybe our brains process it differently or something.
Well, yeah.
But what really? The whole reason why I think people use is because they want to escape reality and are uncomfortable in their own skin.
Exactly. Yeah. So that hyphen there actually means something. And what that means is when something bad happens, usually I'm in rehab, I've got a DUI, my family kicked me out, whatever. That hyphen means that I stop and I mean it. I'm done. Right? And we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've stopped. We meant it how many times in one day?
Right.
Sometimes,
I've read that step a million times, and I've never really noticed the hyphen.
Yes, that hyphen says a lot.
So that's you should put in parentheses, stop and think here. Is this you?
That's right. How many times have we stopped and we meant it?
Right.
Meant it.
Sure.
And so when I do that, now I get to go into the next step. What happens to me when I stop and I mean it, whether I'm getting out of jail, whether I'm sitting on my mom's couch trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do. In the first couple of weeks of that sobriety, you feel pretty good, but then something happens and you're kind of triggered and you're like, I don't, this mom of mine keeps telling me to get out of her house to go find a job. She's getting on my nerves, whatever that. But either way, I'm sober, right? There's not a drop of anything in me.
Right.
And stone cold sober, I become restless, irritable, and discontent.
The old red.
The old red.
Yeah.
And that's what that second part of that step is talking about, that our lives become unmanageable, and that has nothing to do with consequences. And that's what I wanted to point out, because when I looked at that step, I always thought my life was unmanageable because of the consequences. And there are people in this program that haven't had very many consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And they can still have this, allergy and all, the obsession. So ultimately what I'm talking about is the obsession, when I'm there, right, and I'm frustrated, and my brain automatically goes to what the book says. They are restless, irritable, and discontent unless they can, again, experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few hits or drinks, which they ultimately relapse, right? And so basically my mind is trying to kill me and make it look like an accident, like you had said earlier. Yeah. And so ultimately that obsession, when that happens, I no longer know the truth from the false. Right? The truth is, when I put this in my body, I'm allergic, and I literally am at a loss of control because it makes me crave more. The false is, I can, it'll be better this time.
Of course.
I can get away with it. If I mix the vodka with the benzo and a little bit of upper, I'm good.
Right. Yeah. You just gotta get your combination right.
Well, and you guys, I know you guys have been to meetings upon meetings, and you've heard somebody say that like their addictions out there, like doing push-ups, waiting on them for them to like fuck up or whatever, right? But my favorite thing that I ever heard somebody say, and I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it's like my addiction isn't out there doing push-ups. It's with me all the time, and it's enjoying the fact that I'm clean and sober right now, so that the second that I falter, it can be right there to snatch me up with a noose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
It enjoys the fact that we're like getting better, so that, because it's a mental game. It is. I mean, of course, there's physical attributes to it and stuff too, but it's a mental game. It's in your head. It's a chemical thing. You're addicted to these chemicals and things like that. And so the second that you could be having the greatest time, like you said, you're feeling great, whatever, and then you start getting irritable and restless and discontent.
Oh, yeah.
And
like
so then my addiction can swoop in and be like, hey, buddy, this would be good.
Like
over here.
Like a little life on life's terms starts happening to
man,
you.
that's rough.
and then you have to actually deal with it. Yeah. Like sober. Yeah.
Oh, that was
without
tough.
your crutch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without your bestie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. And so that, all that is, and so ultimately, I can recover, and that's what the steps do, is they help me recover from the mental part of this. Like I will always physically be addicted. I will always, not true. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I will always physically have this allergy.
Sure.
But what I do recover from is the mental part of this. I'm no longer obsessing about it. Now I can get away from, that whole spin every time, like, oh, it'll be different this time. Oh, it'll be different this time. Oh, it'll be different this time. I mean, how many times in one day have we all tried to stop?
Right. And well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you still have thoughts of of that? Because I mean, I honestly, I'm at about 16 months, something like that. But I still think, there's still that in the back of my head, just dude, maybe at 2 years, dude, beer me, or something like that. I mean, this is real. Like, I mean, but I mean, the thing is I know where I wound up.
You know your truth.
I know where I wound up, and I know that, why tempt fate is kind of my personal decision. But I mean, I just wonder, does it still bother? Does it still bother somebody that has 6-7 years of sobriety? Do you still imagine, like, every once in a while go,
I don't.
Yeah.
But I can tell you honestly, the first 2 years were that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I can have a glass of wine.
Yeah. And then you go back to your truth, though.
Right.
And so now I'm not going to say you're cured, because you're not. But, I don't think of that, but I think that the longer time that and I think in Smart Recovery, with y'all, you're retraining your brain. And I kind of feel like this is similar in a way because you're retraining, or the spirituality comes in. I don't know, but it's like, you know what? I know my truth. Like, I have had to live my truth out so much that I'm like, oh, I remember that instance. Even if it does pop up for one quick second, I can imagine I would just be like, oh, well, I remember that. I wrecked somebody's car and had to pay out that amends, and boy, that was tough. And
yeah.
And
And I think that's what all of this is. Like you said, it's like we're like in our own heads, like plugging in wires and, and fixing, like, imagine it that way. Like you're carving path, because
they say
carve pathways
neural
in your head. You're
pathways,
recarving pathways to learn different responses and things
well,
like that.
I've shared this before, but I mean, I used to keep my vodka in the fridge, in a lovely Ozarka bottle. Thank you, Ozarka. But it was there. But now I have my energy drink, and I keep in the same place where my vodka was. So I just go over there and just appease that neural pathway with a different beverage of my choice.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm like addicted to Diet Coke, so I don't know why.
Right.
But either way, everybody's different. So once my experience has been, and with seeing other people recover too, everybody is so different. So ultimately, I just want to run down this because I do want to get where we're talking about that spiritual experience. So came to believe in a power greater than ourselves.
Okay, so that's a big sticking point for a lot of people. But go ahead. I want you to go. I don't want to interrupt you yet, but I will.
Yes, I love it.
I will.
I'm glad you will, because I did not like God at all.
Well, I mean, the thing is there's a lot of people that don't believe in a higher power.
Sure.
I know them well.
Yeah. And I think I believed, but I also believed that, God, what kind of God would want anything to do with me, right? Because I was such a shitty person.
Right.
I mean, sure, there's a God, but he left me a long time ago, guys. Like, you're trying to get me to God. Guess what? We already did this, and he's done with me.
Yeah.
And so I was very broken around this. However, what this ultimately is saying is, my higher power before, we all have a higher power. We're just not calling it what it is, right?
Sure.
Drugs were our higher power. Myself, I was my own higher power. I used to do well at that, but that's not working for me anymore. Obviously, the alcohol isn't working for me anymore. The other stuff isn't working for me anymore. So now I have to find something that is bigger than me, because that ain't what I was using before isn't working, and it has to be bigger than the alcohol or the drugs or whatever your thing is. And so what this ultimately, and the way that I can simplify this is saying, if step one, what I described, if that's your truth, then we ultimately have two choices. One is we die this way, or we accept spiritual help. And to be honest with you, I was like, well, how can I die? Because the spiritual help seemed impossible, right? Because I wasn't exactly going to church and doing all the right things to get in the position I was. So basically, what I really say to people that struggle with this is, okay, fine. We can't think of a higher power right now that can help you out of this. Well, let's think of the past. Where have you been in your life that you and God only know? And maybe there was another person. Maybe you were about to get raped. Maybe you were in a dangerous situation. Maybe you were getting robbed. I don't know. But did you ever reach up and say, God, if you get me out of this, I'll do anything, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think we've all done that.
Foxhole prayer.
That's exactly what I was going to say, dude. The foxhole prayer, of course.
Yeah. And the thing about saying that is, what got you out of that? Let's think about it. Did you have a friend there? No. Okay. Were you able to do like the game show, call, help or whatever? Phone a friend?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're here today. How did that happen? Let's
Yeah.
think on that. What power got you here today?
Sure.
Well, let's not call it God yet. Let's
Okay.
just think about it very simplistic. What kind of characteristics would that manifest to allow you to be here today?
He would look like Alex Trebek. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe he does.
Yeah.
But the characteristic part is huge, because when I was in that situation and I said, God, if you get me out of this, I'll do anything. And he did.
Yeah.
It wasn't the way I liked it. And that's what people don't like, right? I may have been in a situation, maybe a jail, or maybe, not at my mom's house, not on a car, whatever. But he got me out of it.
I'm going to put you in jail. So look, you're out of it.
Sometimes God working, right?
Right.
But what characteristics were there? Let me think. They were compassion. So whatever that was, it was compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
It was patient.
Mm-hmm.
It had a little bit of a sense of humor.
Right.
It had to with me.
Most times.
It was very, loving, friendly, approachable. There, it was timely, and so I say, think of the God of your experience. Think of that experience, whatever that higher power was.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you here. So, like, what
Okay.
if the person comes to you and says, "Oh, well, I've tried that and it didn't work," or I just, somebody that's agnostic.
Sure,
or like,
I love that.
Because there's that we agnostics
Yes,
whole
I
chapter.
love that. I
Okay.
love when people say that.
Okay, so
Because the best thing I say is, that's perfect. So do you believe what has worked for me can work for you?
right.
Ultimately,
Mhm.
that's enough.
Yeah. So
If-
I love that you said that. That's good.
And people, I think, get scared because also, I mean, for someone like me, I'm not religious or anything like that, but people, when they hear God, they're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to go to church, and
Oh,
I'm going to
Right.
have to tithe my blessings, and I'm going to have to do this and do, and all that. And that's not the case. It's just believing that you're not doing this on your own.
Right.
That's right.
There's
Well,
something,
I
there's something helping you.
And
other
I
than
love that
yourself.
you said, but what you said is like how, if it's working for me, if you want what I have,
Do
I
you
love
believe
that.
it's work? Do you believe what worked for me can work for you? And that's
I love that.
ultimately
Yeah.
what. And the reason why I said I love that you asked that, because that's where I was.
Yeah.
I didn't do like, oh, I have a higher power. I can do. I believe that was not me. My face fell
Right.
when I heard this God concept or spirituality and all
Yeah.
that. It really did. I was like,
Well, and I think
breaks.
honestly, that's what turns a lot of people off about the program as
Yeah.
well. So,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, you know what? If you believe what worked for me can work for you, we move on with the rest of the work.
Right. Okay.
Period.
See, I like that because I mean, you could sit there and think,
Oh, yeah, we
what
could.
what is my higher power? What does my higher power look like? What
Somebody
what
told
are the
me.
qualifications?
Somebody told me one time. They said your higher power could be the flying spaghetti monster, but
Right.
if it keeps you clean and sober, then that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so,
By the way, if y'all don't believe in the traditional God, y'all are all going to hell. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm just
This
kidding.
just took
I'm
a
just
left
kidding.
turn.
I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Just
No,
kidding.
I'm just kidding.
no. And so, yeah. And so basically, ultimately, that's what the steps are designed to do. They're designed to create a relationship between you and your higher power.
Right.
I can name all these characteristics about my higher power today, but when I started, I said, well, I'll have to believe what works for you can work for me, because I was sitting in front of somebody with 7 to 8 years of sobriety, and they were happy about that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'll just
no,
do
no.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Excuse me.
No.
But yeah, no, it
I'll
just
take
like
what they're having.
I'll take what they're having. Having the
Right.
same issue I had, I'll take a slice
Sure.
of that.
Yeah.
And so, all right.
So then you said, so basically, if that's enough for that, if they can get to that point, then you move on to step 3.
step 3, yeah.
Okay.
And so,
But what do you say? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
go
back
ahead.
up a little bit. But what do you tell someone
love
that's
the
like
question.
me? That when I came into recovery, I was like, oh well, I'm worse than all of y'all. I'm hopeless. There's no way that I can stop using. I'm a scum bucket, bottom of the barrel addict. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there is that too.
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody like that?
well, basically, ultimately, I would suggest, and I know this sounds crazy, but it would be a willingness prayer to not like help me be willing to see the similarities versus the differences,
Yeah.
because and I would just say, try to see what's similar versus what's different between us. And also, you're not that unique.
Right.
Yeah, well,
because
it's a fact.
Because the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times we do think we're unique,
We
and when we
do.
come into the
We
rooms,
do.
it's like a comparing game.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, oh well, you did this. Well, I did this, and I did 5 times more than you, and I stole a car, and and it's not about that,
It's
right?
not. It's about the allergy.
Yeah, it's
Do
about the
you
fact that- yeah.
do you have a loss of control? Okay, me too.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. It doesn't matter where you take yours, as long as when you want to stop, you can't stop. And when
Yeah.
you try, your mind convinces you to go back out. And ultimately, that's our truth.
Yeah, just because I buy mine from a trap house and you buy yours from the gas station, we're the same.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
It's
Yep. Mhm.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I love the questions.
Yeah, good stuff. Go
You want
ahead.
me to go
Carry
for it?
on.
Okay,
Carry on.
I'm
Yeah.
on a roll today.
Yeah.
So, well, you said you want to break up the mystics, so I'm just trying to do that for us.
Well,
today.
no, and I love it because hopefully this is bringing a light, and it's not, it demystifies. So maybe somebody that's not comfortable with having a higher power can still work the steps. I
can.
mean, I think that's a
yes.
huge thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
It's huge,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him, which is so hilarious to me.
Right.
That is a huge step
That's
is
very
intimidating.
Hold on, but that is very 1939 right
Very
there.
much so, yeah.
God as we understood him.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Just
yeah.
so y'all know,
By
I
the way.
still don't understand God.
Yeah.
And in fact,
Yeah.
I'll give you a little goodie from Dirty Dan. We were friends before we were together, and one day I said, when am I ever going to understand God? He goes, sometimes it's better to know God than to understand God. And I thought,
you go.
if I keep trying to understand him, I'll never know him.
Right.
And that was a little nugget I still keep with me.
He Yoda'd you.
He did. I was like, it was pretty cool. But basically, ultimately, this is intimidating. But all that it means is I'm making a decision to go on with the rest of the work.
Right.
That's it.
Okay.
I get to do a really cool prayer in this step.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ultimately, basically saying, hey, God, I'm going to keep my hands off my life. I've seen what I
Right.
can do, and whoever's running Corporation Valerie needs to be fired.
Right.
And I'm going to go ahead and let her be fired.
complete
and
overhaul.
Right.
Complete overhaul, bankrupt, all of that.
Right.
And ultimately, I am going to be your employee.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be, you're my boss. So in the mornings, I'm going to check in with you, see
Right.
what I can be doing today, how I can be helpful to others.
And I love that you said that because, I mean, I found really key, and it's not like I'm some old grizzled veteran, but early on in sobriety, I found, because in like the rehab that I actually went to is morning meditation and morning or an evening meditation. So it was they called it the daily process where I went, and you basically kind of had a list, and you said, I wish I had that with me, but I mean, I found that the meditation part of it was very important and very key, especially early on. And I'm not saying it's not now, but especially early on
I
for
agree.
me, it was.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Wake up with a clean slate and just
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and just get your head right for the day and know that, and just do that step one all over again.
But
you know?
most importantly, if I am saying I have a new employer, what do I do every day with my employer or my job? I check in, right?
Mhm.
If I'm saying I have a new employer, then I'm going to check in with boss man.
Mhm.
I mean, and he's
Sure.
a mob boss, just so you know. Like,
Right.
he's awesome. And so ultimately I'm checking in just to say, hey, how can I be of service today? But ultimately that's step 3. And then 4 is make it a searching and fearless moral inventory. So basically I'm sitting down with my sponsor. She's giving me an inventory, doing resentments. I'm doing fears. I'm doing sex conduct. It doesn't mean everybody that I slept with. It's basically how have I used my woman powers to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
It
Sure.
doesn't mean that I had to sleep with somebody to use my woman power.
Dylan,
No, I
how
just thought that was funny how she
hold on,
put that.
Dylan, how have you used your woman powers?
Well, I do
Yes.
have Farrah Fawcett fluff under here, so sometimes I flip it in the wind.
All right.
Very good, but I'm sure you have. I mean, in your manpower,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we learn how to manipulate, whether
Of
it be with
course.
sexuality or charisma or whatever. Like
That's
I could talk my
right.
way into a good situation 99% of the time, right?
Right.
That's right, and that's what that's ultimately doing, because I need to get all of that out of the way, and it's ultimately what I have done over the years of self-will is I have created this tunnel that has all these boulders in it, right? And the boulders need to be removed so that I can have this obsession removed for once and all. And so that tunnel is going to be holding things like,
Well, and this is
manipulation.
kind of like where you where you admit and deal kind of with some of your trauma, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
that's okay.
Yeah, trauma, resentments typically are covering the trauma. Fears, I mean, I had a fears list of 3 to 4 pages because I was very fearful. Well, I'm fearful of being alone. Wait a minute, I'm fearful of being with somebody. Oh, I'm fearful to have friends. Wait, I'm fearful to not have friends. We can go on and on with that one. And I love when I can do a good fears list with somebody because I know that they're being honest, because in early sobriety, there's so much fear. The wind blows. Oh my God, that scared me,
Right.
Yeah.
It's just so scary.
Yeah.
So the fears list is highly important.
Okay.
Then obviously I'm sitting with my sponsor. I am doing the inventory. She's, I'm sitting with my sponsor. She's inviting God, higher power, to come in and be a part of this, because basically we're hashing this out. She's telling me, yes, I was resentful, but is that fair for me to be resentful over something I've also done to somebody else?
Right.
That's more selfish,
Sure.
right? So I find out my character defects in this process too, like ego, selfishness. My big one, delusional,
Yeah.
dishonesty.
Right.
All of those things come out in that process, and it has to be, with somebody that is like us, because we couldn't do it on our own. We just, there's no way. Like, that's why people don't, and the book talks about that, doing it by yourself is not self-sufficient, is not efficient enough. And so basically, then you do a 6th step, which is basically a prayer. The 6th step is basically a prayer. And it's basically...
Hey, well, I want to go back to step 5 real quick.
Okay.
So when you say admitted to God and ourselves, I mean, so a lot of people have a stick up on, like, basically telling kind of a stranger, maybe their sexual inventory or something like that. And what advice would you give somebody who maybe doesn't want to be 100% truthful with their 5th step?
Yeah.
What would you say?
So I don't even say anything. So I love this book because it says it here for me.
Okay.
It says on page 73, after it says why it's so important we discuss ourselves fully with somebody, it says we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happy in this world. And so that ultimately, I'll point that out, as well as the fact that whenever we do this, we go over taking this, after we're done with our 5th step, carefully reading over the 5 proposals. We ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an ark through which we can walk a free man at last. And so at that point, I just say, have you been honest about everything?
Do you do this, like you have your reading glasses on and you drop them and you go, really? Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the first time I ever did a 4th step and then a 5th step, I was like really nervous about it. And my sponsor at the time, I was like, dude, look, like a lot of shit. You're going to hear me say a lot of shit that's like really super off the wall. And then we got done, and that's what he fucking said to me. He looked over me, he goes, that's it, dude? He's like, that's a weekend for me. And I'm like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I also share some stuff from my 4th step to kind of loosen up the mood.
Yeah, and I think that helps, and I think that's a good thing, as a sponsor to do.
Yeah,
for sure.
it is.
So
Yeah.
make yourself relatable. Give them a little nugget, and just go,
I do.
Hey,
They're like, I'm good now.
I give them a big nugget, and they're like, wow, dude, now I can talk about my stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I've got plenty in there. So
Funny.
yeah.
Hey, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to it all. I know we're going to have you back.
I know.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do
So,
the
I
last
mean, we'll talk because I would love to have you on with Marcia. I think that would be a great to have somebody that actually has 24-hour experience and that lived it. And then,
She might tell you how she did not think I was going to last.
Oh, well, I would love that. I would love that for sure.
Always tells me that. No, I mean, I'm just kidding, but she really does. She's in a loving way. She's like, God, Val, I can't believe you made it.
I cannot believe you of all people.
Yeah.
Wow, you.
I've had people.
Hey, but real quick, I want to hit our sponsor, which is summersky.us. That is summersky.us, and that is 888-857-8857. Once again, that is 888-857-8857. They are a fantastic facility out in Stephenville, Texas. I got sober there. You can do it too. So that's what I have to say as I point at the camera. Yeah. But, the thing is also, I think that's cool, and we've touched on a lot of stuff, but also I want to touch on, and I always kind of preach about this, if you will, but having fun in sobriety. I mean, because people honestly, I thought I was going to lose my edge and not be able to have fun without alcohol. I was just like, how do people have fun without alcohol?
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a big
huge,
big thing for me because I was going to lose my edge, man. And I was like, man, I'm just as big of a smart ass as I ever was.
Yeah.
And I'm still the same person, and I still, but I mean, I have fun, and I'm actually here to enjoy it. So I don't know. What would you say? I mean, we have a few minutes, so what would you say to that point?
I definitely was there with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely awkward in the beginning when you don't have substances to even go out and do things as a group of friends in sobriety. It's just, you're going to feel awkward. You're going to feel out of your element.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to practice whatever, with the sober outings. There's so much to do. Be a part of those things.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much to do in this DFW, but go and be a part, and you're gonna feel a fish out of water. But guess what? You're not the only one that feels that way.
Oh yeah,
everybody's there, and you can even make a joke and be like, "Hey, I'm socially awkward without alcohol. You're gonna see that today. Let's have fun,
Yeah.
and just let it be known, because it's just learning how to walk again,
Oh, yeah.
and use your functionality. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree as well. I mean, and it'll scare. I don't know. In early recovery, I was scared of going out and doing stuff with people. I would. But I think I think that once I got past that, I think I have more fun now when I'm out with people and stuff like that because I'm present.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm snappier, and I'm there, and I'm more, and like you said, I'm making memories now. I don't remember half the shit I did when I was high and fucked up and stuff like that. And now I can go somewhere, me and my fiance can go to the museum, and 2 weeks later I can be sitting somewhere and be like, oh dude, that was so, I can remember those things and vividly remember them, and
I'll also, there's no guilt involved.
Yeah,
No
right.
guilt.
And I don't wake up the next morning wondering God, did I make an asshole out of
Right.
myself? Stuff like that,
Sure.
So I don't know. It's definitely, like you said, it's stepping out of your comfort zone. It's all of those things, but man, in the end, is it worth it? Right?
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went out with a group of people that were sober, and we were broke, we didn't have money, we're all together, we're all shopping or window shopping, and basically I was like, this is so awkward. But by the end of the day, I was actually laughing about stupid stuff that we were looking at in the store. And I just forgot how awkward, and that I didn't have alcohol or any substances. And I was like, wait a minute. I just laughed.
Well, wait a minute. I just had fun.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the beginning, someone told me, because I was one of those ones, I would show up late and leave early. And they said, you need to flip that. You need to show up early and leave late, right? And just force yourself to do it a couple times. And then you start meeting people and talking to people and stuff like that. Before you know it, you're going out to dinner with everybody. You're doing this. You're doing that. There's events on the weekend.
You're doing a podcast.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you've made friends, right?
Sure.
And there's no, The coolest thing about friends in recovery is like, because when I was an addict, at least in my case, I wanted to be friends with you for whatever I could get out of your pockets, right? Or whatever you could do for me.
Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. I can genuinely just be friends with someone because I fucking like them.
Right.
Right.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Right. Right.
And also, really quick, we're all weird and awkward without alcohol. So guess what? You know what?
Yeah,
We're feeling it
absolutely.
all the same way, and we
Yeah.
get to be around each other and hang out with each other and accept each other the way we are.
Embrace the weirdness.
I
Embrace
like it.
the
I like
weird.
it. Right, exactly. So real quick, I guess, I always like to give the guest an opportunity to give shout outs because I know you have probably a little bit of a list. And also I would like to invite you back on the show
I
as
would
well.
love
So,
to come
okay.
back.
All
Let
right.
me know.
We will see if the calendar allows it.
Okay.
Okay, but any shouts out?
Goofball.
Shout out. Shout outs? Shouts out.
I will.
Is it shout?
You want to go first? Go first.
Shout
No,
outs or shouts out?
Shouts outs. I don't know.
Yeah,
Totally butchered that.
I don't know.
Confusion.
Yeah.
No, I just always say hi to Shelly. You know, she's at home watching. So hi, babe.
Yay.
Okay.
And then,
Hi,
yeah.
Shelley.
Yay. I am going to say hi to, I want to shout out Knucklehead Recovery. They are on Facebook, and they are a great group. I know that Daniel Niebrand, my husband's doing great things with them, as well as my fam.
Okay.
Love you, fam. And
All right.
that's all I have for
Well,
shout-outs.
cool. Well, thanks for coming out, and hopefully we demystified a little bit today.
Yeah.
Hopefully we put some light on it, and maybe somebody can use this as a tool, and maybe
Yeah.
we help navigate today.
Yeah, I think,
I don't know.
and I think we talked about the scariest part. So next time we need to just we'll talk about the the maintenance at the end half of
There
it.
you
You
go.
know what I'm saying? And maybe
Right.
that'll. So then we can join both the podcasts together. And
There we go.
Whoa.
Mind blown.
yeah, explosion.
But anyway, please, we have a YouTube channel, so if you get a chance, please subscribe to that. And that is just if you go to www.thispinkcloud.com, that will route you to the YouTube channel. So be sure and subscribe there. We're also on all formats like Spotify, all that good stuff. Next week we actually have a doctor. We have a doctor on. I know. Who knew?
This is a
But
house alert.
Dr. Charles Smith, and he wrote a book called Understanding Addiction, and all about the stigma that lies within. So that's going to be a good one. So at least you guys tune in.
I
And
will.
I'll have at least 2 people watching. And,
That's not
and,
true.
And Brett unwillingly watching.
Oh, Brett loves it.
But yeah, Brett, if you could play us out. Hey guys, if you want shirts, be sure and go to my website. It's djkellyreverb.com/shop. Got a bunch of groovy shirts up there. And thanks again for coming out, guys. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And then remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.
Drop the bomb now.